Hey you guys, my name's Jeff. Welcome to the channel. If you've been here before, then welcome back. And a big thank you to you guys. I noticed I just passed 300 subscribers on this channel. I would not have been able to do this without you. I love seeing your comments under these videos. If it weren't for you guys, would not have hit 300, and here is to many more. Now today, I want to tell you guys about an investor who has done with his Roth IRA something I've just never seen before. And I feel that by sharing this info with you guys about what he's managed to do, you guys will understand what's possible in this world, and maybe you'll learn some things that will help you to become an even better investor. Now, the guy that I want to talk with you about today, his name is Ted Weschler. And I'm guessing none of you guys have heard of him before. He got hired about 10 years ago to work at Berkshire Hathaway along with somebody named Todd Combs. And the two of them manage the investments at Berkshire Hathaway along with Warren Buffett. Buffett makes a lot of the big purchases, and he entrusts Ted and Todd to make the smaller investments, but they're not small. They're like $500 million investments, so they're small in Warren Buffett's world, but for them, it's a sizable amount of money. And they work there because one day Warren Buffett is not going to be picking all the stocks at Berkshire. So starting about 10 years ago, he looked for some people who were very smart, who had just exceptional investment records, and who he trusted a lot and who fit with the culture of Berkshire Hathaway, and he hired them. And so I want to tell you a bit about Ted Weschler and how he kind of got this job at Berkshire, and also, I think most importantly, how he turned his Roth IRA that he built while he was working at his first job from $70,000 to $220 million. So he did this, okay? And just to get started here, he's one of 5 children in a family of modest means from Erie, Pennsylvania. And he went to the University of Pennsylvania. He graduated and went to work at this company called W.R. Grace when he was 22. And he just started investing the first year that he was able to. You could only start with a 401k after you'd been there for 1 year. And he started investing. By the time he left in 1989, I think he'd been there about 6 or 7 years, his account was worth $70,384, okay? Of that, $34,353 was his own contribution, all right? That was his own investment. And $12,328 was the matching contribution that his company made to his IRA. And the rest was just investment gains in his account. So when he left, 1989, that investment was worth $70,384. Fast forward to the end of 2018, and that investment was worth $221.6 million. The question that everybody has is, how did he do this, right? I mean, we want to know, how did he do it? Because if there's some kind of roadmap or recipe for doing this, we all want to be able to turn our Roth IRAs into, fantastically enormous, huge accounts like his. Well, of course, this is not an easy thing to do, okay? But there are lessons to be learned from his success that everybody watching this video can learn and can apply. So the question all of us should have is, how did Ted Weschler do this, okay? And I'd say that the first way we can figure that out is to ask, what kind of stocks did he buy? In other words, where did he fish? What kind of pond did he fish in? Now, I will just say this, with Berkshire Hathaway, he has to make huge investments, okay? Because Berkshire Hathaway is a company worth more than $600 billion. I think at last check, it's $683 billion company. So any investment that he makes has to be at least $500 million, and it can be no more than 10% of the company that he's investing in. So this means his investing universe is a very finite universe, and it's all huge companies, very large companies, in the S&P 500. But his fortune was not made by investing in huge companies. And the simple reason is this. If you look at this, a large company is like this big whale, if you think about it. And once you're a whale, okay, it's hard to grow a lot bigger. You've already maxed out your size. I've got another whale here. You can see these are the majestic creatures of the ocean. But once you get really big in size, it's hard to become like a double whale or a triple whale or a quadruple whale because you've already maxed out, right? And that's kind of like if we look at companies like Google or Microsoft or Amazon, once you get to a big enough size, it's very hard to grow to double in size or to triple. Your growth starts to become, 10%, 12%, maybe really big years, you might increase your earnings by 15%, but you're not getting things like a 50% gain or a 40% gain once you get to be huge. Now, if you look at a smaller fish like this one, this is a coelacanth right here. It's actually a prehistoric fish. Or you look at, one of these. Well, once you're starting from a little fish like these, it would be easier to grow in size because you just gotta, swim around and eat some fish food. And in a couple of years, maybe you'll double in size or triple, or you know what I'm saying. So I think what you have to get your mind around is if you want to have the kind of results where your investment, say in a Roth or whatever you're investing in, is going to double and triple and get the kind of returns he got, you need two things. One is a very long period of time to invest in. So when you look at his investment from 1989 to 2018, that's about 30 years. So he never touched that money. He didn't take anything out of it. The other thing is you need the investments within there to be growing in size more than just 5 or 8 or 10%. And one other example would be like a dog. Like once a dog is 3 or 4 years old, yeah, it might grow a little bit from its third year to its fourth, but it's just going to grow a little bit. From its fourth year to its fifth, maybe it'll grow a little bit. But when you get a puppy, like 2 weeks old, 3 weeks old, you'll notice that just within the first several months, this thing will just get much, much, much bigger. You've all seen puppies become dogs. So you understand the point here. Ted Weschler could buy small stocks when he was just starting out, and when he was running his investments, I believe the company was called Peninsula, his hedge fund, and so he built up this huge record before he joined Berkshire investing in these smaller companies. So at Berkshire, like I was saying, the companies have to be like $500 million or larger, but for his personal investments, even ones that he makes today, he can fish from the whole rest of the universe. He also bought stocks of little-known companies that he determined that were in much better shape than the market thought they were. These are companies that the market, they've probably gone down 30%, 50%, 70% in value, but he's looking at the stock, I'm talking about the stock prices have gone down, but he's looking at the company and saying, this is still a good company. The market is just real pessimistic, and that's why it's become cheap. And so he has the ability and the stomach to buy a stock that's down a lot in value because he can see that the stock is not accurately reflecting the strength of the underlying company. So if you take a look, just as an example, at VTI, which is the Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF, there are 4,028 companies in it. Now, if you take out the S&P 500, the largest 500, you're left with 3,528 stocks. Now that is his universe. These are the kind of stocks that in his view, at least when he's investing for himself, and these are the kinds of stocks he invested in when he was trying to grow faster. One thing you should know, that although Ted Weschler's overall IRA returns since 1989, all right, going from 70,000 to 220 million are astronomical, his percentage gains since he joined Berkshire Hathaway in 2013 until the present are both below the Berkshire Hathaway stock returns and the S&P 500. And so the question then would be, well, why was he so good before, and ever since he joined Berkshire, his returns in his own IRA have been much lower? And I read a quote from him in an article, and he said, "I think it's safe to say that my retirement account got a lot less attention after I joined Berkshire." He said for the prior 22 years, when he was working at his hedge fund, there was a direct overlap between the things I was looking at for my day job and potential investment opportunities for my retirement account. So he was looking at things for his hedge fund work, and he went, oh, you know what? I think this would be a good stock to also own in my retirement account. But once I joined Berkshire, that simply wasn't the case, he said. And again, this is because he's looking at huge stocks for the investments in Berkshire, and that is a different universe for what he was investing in his own IRA at his last hedge fund. Now he simply doesn't put in the time, and that, he says, is the reason that his IRA isn't growing at the same rate. Now, I feel like this next part is the crux of this video, as far as like what we can learn from it, so that you and me and everyone else who's watching this video on YouTube can kind of use this as our take-home message. So the question is, how does he do it? Well, Ted Weschler said that he spends a lot of his time reading and thinking and studying companies and industries to find things that the financial markets don't seem to be seeing, okay? So all the stuff that you see on television, on CNN, or read about in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, whatever, that's all stuff everybody knows. So the prices of those stocks, again, whether it's, Nvidia or Microsoft or Tesla, everybody kind of has had a chance to look at the companies, look at the stocks, and figure out the pricing. So the prices are approximately right for all these commonly studied stocks. But, Weschler says, for those people who can't do that, who can't spend all the time reading and studying, then index funds are the answer. But what Weschler says, one of the great mistakes of investing is that people do end up reading the same things. And the only way, he says, that you're going to have success in the stock market is if you've got what's referred to as variant perception, something that's different from the masses. So think of that just for a moment. Here's another quote from Ted Weschler. "I always do want to be able to look myself in the mirror and say that I'm reading enough weird stuff that nobody else is reading the same stuff that I am. If you're just reading the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, there's no way you're going to beat other people. You're just reading the same thing." He said, "I read Furniture Today and Uranium Weekly. I'm not sure there's a lot of people that subscribe to both of those, and you're looking at one of them." So I just think this is worth kind of letting soak in, sink in. He's reading really obscure things. He's reading publications, magazines, newspapers that other people aren't, and he's thinking about how these things might be relevant. He's thinking how the stuff that he's learning could be useful to him in analyzing a business. And maybe he's able to find a company that's got an edge or a leg up in an industry, and then he's able to see that the stock is really cheap. And then he can connect the dots and say, wow, this company is one of the best, fastest growing in its industry, and investors are not even paying attention to it. So that's, to me, the most important take-home message. You have to have variant perception, which means you're looking at things that other people aren't looking at. You have to be reading and learning about things that most people aren't interested in. And the other thing, I like this, is that I want to be able to look in the mirror and say that I'm reading enough weird stuff that nobody else is reading, the same stuff that I am. So you really want to be kind of going and doing your own thing. And I have read that Ted Weschler spends hours a day, 8, 9 hours, sometimes 10 hours, just reading and thinking. And the same with Todd Combs, who's his co-partner in investing at Berkshire. Both of them pretty much hang out in their offices all day long reading. And that's how you get smart and learn about the kinds of things that could truly lead you to stocks that have a lot of room to grow, especially stocks that are overlooked by other investors. So how is all this useful to you and me? Well, I would say that we can dedicate ourselves to learning about companies that maybe are not being discussed by everyone else. If you think about it, the Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF has more than 4,000 companies. So if 500 of those are huge companies that everyone's looking at, maybe we can look at those small caps or the mid caps. Truly, the smaller companies are those that, for example, they might be $3 billion companies or $5 billion or smaller or larger, but they could potentially double in size and double again, whereas a company like Berkshire that's 600 billion probably is not going to double quite as quickly. It might take a long time, but again, companies like Google, like Berkshire Hathaway or JP Morgan, they're so large that the growth is incremental. Ted Weschler said that in his investing results, we can find an aspirational example of the power of deferred consumption. Every $1 saved as a 22-year-old in New York City, when he had that job at W.R. Grace, every $1 grew over the next 35 years to over $9,000. Certainly not the expected result, but the sort of example that can hopefully help motivate generations of future savers. That's what he said. So think about that. At that kind of growth from $1 turning into 9,000, if you just multiply it out, if he had $25,000 times 9,000, that's 225 million. So you don't have to have every one of your dollars turn into $9,000. But what if you had every dollar of yours turn into $5 when you retired? What if every dollar you saved turned into $8 or $10 or $15? So think about that. Each $1 of his grew to $9,000. So if you can hold off on spending that $1 or $2 or $5 and instead invest it, you may not get $9,000 for each dollar you invest, but you will probably grow it several times over. And a lot of this may have to do with luck. It may have to do with where the market is when you buy your stock and also the stocks that you buy. But think of this. There are many times we all spend $30 on something or $50 or $70 or $90 on some things that we don't really need. I think this is the most important lesson from this whole example of Ted Weschler's IRA growth. You know, for you and I, we can all find $50 to $70 in the course of a month or maybe in the course of a week that we don't really need to spend on the junk that we're buying. So if we can somehow find a way to take those $50 and have those grow over time, you know, it's very powerful. So keep in mind that if you had just taken that $70,535 that Ted Weschler had when he left W.R. Grace, and you just put it into an S&P 500 index fund or an ETF, it would be worth $1.6 million. So you don't have to go and pick small cap stocks or large cap stocks or spend all your time reading. You could simply buy the index and hold it and find it to be worth a huge amount of money. I think there are some real gems that you can take from this and use in your own investing. If you like this video, it would be awesome if you could give it a thumbs up. That just tells other people who are watching YouTube videos that you like this, and they'll be much more likely to find this video in their stream. And if you're not yet a subscriber, it would be great to have you along. So hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, then you'll get a heads up whenever I make a new video. So happy you joined me, and I will see you in the next video.